the people do.
We are live. We are live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cheltenham Town Fans Forum here live on the Cheltenham Town YouTube channel and, of course, on the Cheltenham Town website as well. 24 hours ago, of course, we were in Preston North End. Carabao Cup third round action, making a bit of history. Our first ever third round game in that competition. Of course, the first of 3 long trips in a week, but we're delighted, of course, to be here this evening to bring you our Fans Forum here for the supporters to find out more about what the club's been doing at the start of the season. Of course, to ask plenty of questions of what we have been getting up to, and of course trying to find out more about what we're doing to make the club an even better place for everyone all around. Later on, we're going to be joined by Michael Duff. He's going to be joining us at 8 o'clock to be answering questions from supporters as well. But in the meantime, I'm very pleased to say we've got several of the board of directors with us here this evening in the boardroom for this live fans forum. I'll start furthest away from me, Club Secretary Paul Godfrey, also Director, of course. Paul is going to be with us this evening throughout. We've also got Chairman David Bloxham sat in the middle, and also our Finance Director Clive Gowing sat just beside me as well. So we've got lots to get through. We're going to have people joining us live on the call as well. And of course, we want you to get involved throughout. So you can tweet us on Twitter. I've got my phone ready with the Twitter all open. So if you're interested in sending in any questions, please do so, and we'll get through those with both Michael Duff and, of course, the directors here this evening as well. We have actually even got someone waiting on the line right now. We'll be joining them in a minute. But I'll just start off, if I can, chat, just a very general question. The start to the season, how do you see it from your perspective?
I'll kick off then.
Go on, David.
Well, encouraging, really. Obviously, we've gone up a little. We all knew it was going to be very difficult. We needed to get started. We all know that until the transfer window is closed, that there's a certain amount of uncertainty with the final squad. But I think since we've sort of got into the groove in the last few games, it's been very encouraging. We've got some positives in terms of signings, and recently some of the results have been, well, I'd say exceptional at this stage to win away at Cheltenham and to beat Oxford at home. All good stuff. So yeah, very happy.
Absolutely, yeah. We have already had some good days out in League One so far, and we've got lots of questions that have come in via email already. We've got some via Twitter as well. I think Richard Gardner is also trying to join us live at the minute, but we'll have Richard link up in a moment just when his technology kicks in on our Zoom call. But let me jump into a question then, which has come in already via email, and there's 2 people who've asked about this, and it's about the Presby Road end, so the speed skip stand. Suggestions, of course, previously in previous months, maybe even pre-pandemic, about possibly raising the roof for speed skip stands as one potential option. Jack Burnley, who actually messaged in from Florida, USA, he also says there's been talk for many years about replacing that roof to improve the acoustics and increase the amount of noise generated from behind the goal, therefore creating a better atmosphere around the ground. Obviously, the pandemic's affected things. Any sort of thoughts on the redevelopment of that stand, as well as the main stand? And that's both from Breton Day and Jack Burnley in Florida.
Well, I think we'd all like to see the Presby Road end stand improve, particularly acoustically. The fans do their best to generate an atmosphere down there, and if you're under the roof, then there's a lot of noise. But across the pitch, it doesn't sound as noisy as it obviously is. And the fans' efforts to cheer the lads along is not as good as it could be because of the stand and its acoustics. I know that we've been looking at doing something about that for a long time. I know that also I think that we looked at sort of some measures whereby the improvements could be made to what's already there in terms of trying to get the sound to amplify out forwards, but I'm not sure that has really been something that's been feasible or necessarily effective. Certainly, I think as a board, what we want to do is to try and look at a bigger picture. There are various things that we want to try and improve around here, and obviously Presby Road End is one of them. In order to do that, we need to generate some finance. We need to look at it in the context of all the other projects that we'd like to try and get moving. Obviously, we've been talking to the council about ground redevelopment for quite some time, and we've at last made a little bit of headway in terms of our relationship with Parklands, which would also be a key issue in terms of requiring a little bit of land at the corner in order to make a decent job of renovating and improving that stand. So very much on the agenda, but whether or not it gets done sooner or later is the question, really, depending on what priorities we give to all the projects we've got in mind.
Definitely. Let's talk a question that another one actually we've had in from Breton Day about catering. So the question from Breton is this. He says, I've seen a lot of supporters alongside myself complain at the poor quality of the catering services on a match day. What is being done to address this? Are we pursuing new caterers or a better quality and standard of refreshments? I don't know if someone wants to take that on board.
Yeah, I could take that one on board. It's something that we recognise. I think probably since closure of the ground in the pandemic and returning, it's become possibly even more of an acute problem. We're very aware of it. We have an SLO, Jenny, who is now liaising with the fans to tell us what specific issues are. I think it's largely about quality and choice. Certainly John Murphy, one of our directors, is in regular liaison with both Jenny, the fans, and with the Event Foods, who run the catering outlets for us. I believe that there have also been some issues about queues, but having spoken to John today about this, the feedback for the last couple of the games has been that there's been some improvement. Certainly we want to get fans served more quickly, we want the quality of the food to be better, and we want the choices to be increased. So we have very much put pressure on catering, Jonathan, who runs it, and we hope that we'll see some improvement. We do actually contract that facility out to Jonathan. He has got this season to run on this, so it's not as easy as just saying change the caterers. It's more a question of work with them, and we are endeavouring to do that to the best of our ability.
Yeah, we've had a tweet in from Stuart. Stuart says, a related question perhaps to the Presbyterian Road End question. Any news on the land off the Presbyterian Road and the land swap with the council, which has been mentioned before? I know that's been brought up many times over fans' forums over the years.
Yeah, it's been going on for quite a long time, that one. We're still in discussions with the council. There's been some changes at the council. I think we're due to have another meeting fairly soon. David and I met with our former chairman, Councillor Paul Baker. That was one of the things we talked about, was sort of the potential ground development options. So he tells us that there's going to be another meeting, because obviously everything got put on hold by the pandemic. Presby Road End, as I think we said before, we had some surveys booked in for the day that the first lockdown actually happened, to try and work out what was feasible with regard to improving the roof of that end. So a lot of these things are now being picked up again. We're starting to get back to some sort of normality.
Yeah, nice one. A question we've had in from Gabriel Sutton on Twitter. What do you say to those who question the ticket pricing strategy? I have a cousin who lives in Cheltenham, used to follow town as a kid/teen, and would go more now if the prices were lower. Totally respect it's a hard balancing act. Just find it helpful to hear the club's position on ticketing.
Yep, I'll happily take this one. Appreciate it is a hard balancing act. It's all about obviously maximising revenue, but also giving a ticket price that we think is value for money with our supporters. We are also looking, at doing different offers as we go through the season as well, and hopefully we'll have some news, within the next week, I'd say, on some of our upcoming games about doing different offers, certainly aimed at our family and our younger supporters, who we think kind of are key to generating supporters, for future years. It is a difficult balancing act in terms of finances and running a football club. We're not like lots of other clubs where they have an owner who pumps in vast amounts of money. We have to run a tight ship, and ticket pricing certainly comes in that strategy in terms of our pricing strategy and our revenue generation. But we looked at the price, but we've also looked at the tickets we charge, and that also allow us to do offers as we go through the season. So hopefully supporters will see in the next week or so some good offers coming up on future games.
Nice one, thanks very much.
Clive, could I just add to that also? I think having had a look at that, I completely endorse what Clive says about needing to raise the finance, but we have over the course of this season looked at a structure, because obviously what's sometimes said is that the adult Colin Farmer tickets walk up are the most expensive. They're £28 for an adult, but if you look at that, if they're bought in advance, they're £26. So obviously that's an incentive for people to buy in advance, which helps us enormously. But also this season, we did reward our long-standing fans. If you renewed your ticket before the early bird date, I believe that the renewal figure was £370, which works out at just £16 for an adult in the Colin Farmer stand. So I like to think that we rewarded the loyalty of some of our fans that have stood by us through the pandemic, particularly. And after the early bird, I think the price for the season ticket in the Colin Farmer stand for the adult was £481, which works out at £20.91 over 23 league games. So yeah, the headline might be, if you walk up to the ground, it's £28, but yeah, with a little bit of forward planning, you can get into the Colin Farmer stand for a lot less than that, and that really applies across the whole ticket range, whether you're in Yorton Village or on the terraces. Buy early, or indeed, if you're a season ticket holder, you're going to get a great deal.
Definitely. Nice one. Thanks, David. A couple of season ticket related questions then we had in earlier on email. Could you please ask the board why they have taken away the season ticket holders lounge, as trying to get a drink in the main bar is hopeless, and a lot of season ticket holders are getting on in years, and it's very hard to get a seat? And that is from Roy, who asked that question.
Well, I'm happy to take that one. I think we can all chip in. The strategy was it's about commercial revenue. So we put the hospitality upstairs, we turned into executive boxes, and the downstairs bar we've now turned into our matchday hospitality. It was part of a longer term strategy as well, in terms of then using that room in an overflow into the car park to create a kind of a fan zone for additional area for supporters to kind of drink as well, which is part of our longer term strategy. We managed to do a bit of a hybrid approach at the last Oxford game, which I think has gone down well, and the supporters I spoke to certainly seemed to enjoy it, and actually the bar inside, the pressure inside was a bit eased as well. And we did actually put an additional bar inside the main facility as well to improve queuing times on Saturday. We appreciate that it's a little bit of a hybrid approach. We had been in discussions with our brewery around a marquee and a bit more of a permanent structure for a number of games during the course of the season, but that's turned a little bit more difficult to sort out. The brewers are struggling to get hold of marquees at the moment. Like a lot of things since pandemic are a bit more harder to achieve, and so that's why we looked at that hybrid structure. But it certainly is an area we're looking at, and we are limited as part of this main stand. We're limited in terms of size and resource.
You do want to try some different things, though. I mean, we're very much aware that pubs around here have closed down. There isn't, but people like to come along and socialise and stay at the ground for longer on match days. So we're going to try some different things. We're looking at possibly doing something for the Rotherham game, and we've got a temporary events notice to possibly put another facility in for that one. Just trying different things and seeing what works. And it's quite a positive time, I think, at the moment, because we're just trying different things. The ground's been the same for such a long time, and the whole match day experience has been the same for such a long time. And now I think we've got an opportunity to try some different things, and we're going to try and improve something each week if we can.
Definitely, certainly. And let's go to another season ticket related question we had in via email ahead of tonight's live stream. Whilst the club have expanded their hospitality offerings, no discounted pricing for season ticket holders is advertised. Surely you don't expect season ticket holders to pay for a match ticket which is included in the hospitality package, where they have already done so through their season ticket for league matches. And that's from Alison and Malcolm Whitfield.
I'll take that one again. I think we have looked at lots of different price ranges in terms of hospitality. So I think our cheapest, we've got different price categories for different games. I think your cheapest hospitality you can get at some stage of the season is £35, which is a good offer, and regardless of being a season ticket or not, I think that's a very good deal, and that's for a one-course meal. And then we go up to £80 or more per person if you go into a box. So there are lots of different price strategies throughout the season, and again, it comes down to space, supply and demand. We have got a small stand, so certain games, I know, for example, Sheffield Wednesday, we could probably sell 3 or 4 times over, because the demand is there. We have also looked at different offers as well. So I think a couple of games coming in the early part of the season, we had some good good deals as well. We're open to everyone, not just season ticket holders. So I think, in terms of that, again, it comes down to offers. So yes, I understand the tickets. You are buying again for a ticket, but you've got an improved seat, you've got an improved offering. And I think certainly it would be a game by game basis then to look at, if you've got a season ticket, can we do something for you? More of a game by game rather than a flat. A season ticket holder would get this X discount because, like I say, certain games, Sheffield Wednesdays, the Sunderlands are high in demand.
Yeah, I should also say, of course, talking about all the different things we're trying to do as well, like Paul mentioned, of course, I've had a lot of success with Dare Brewery, the beer that was produced, the Champions beer that was produced at the end of our League Two title winning season last season. And I know we're doing a bit of work with them, hopefully, and trying to bring them up, which of course would be perfect. Local sort of supplier, very popular as well with fans, and from what I understand, also very powerful. So you've got to have a bit about you to take on a Dare beer, certainly. Let's go for a question about it on Twitter then, live this evening. Chris Snook. And it's one for David. He says, question for David, is he enjoying the role? And what are his ambitions for the club under his guidance?
Hi, Chris. Yeah, I'm enjoying the role. It's a privilege. It's something that I've been involved in for a little while now. I'm first and foremost a fan and have been for many years. And I've slowly immersed myself into more and more involvement in the club. I've done legal work around here. I've been involved in sponsoring the Colin Farmer stand in the early days. Invited to join the board by Colin Farmer, worked with Paul Baker and Colin, worked with Andy as vice chairman as well. And on Andy Gowing, obviously, I was appointed by the rest of the guys to take the chair. It is a privilege. It's a big job, I have to say, and it's time consuming. I think I'll probably put in, I would say, excluding going to games and watching games, I'll probably put in about 20 hours a week of time on all sorts of things, meetings, emails, etc., etc. But yeah, it's great. And when you come in here on a Saturday and you see the stands full and 5,000 here for Oxford, and the lad's doing well, it gives you a great sense of pride. So yeah, I am enjoying it. It's a privilege to do the job.
Great stuff. A few more questions we've got on Twitter. We've also got some people waiting online as well. We'll jump in with in just a few minutes' time. Cy Watton says, regarding tickets, will the club look to offer payment plans again for season tickets? Some people can't afford to pay £200 or £300 in one lump sum.
Again, it's another question, and something we discuss as as a board and as a commercial team every year. We did have a ticketing plan in place probably 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, and then the company we were using, and pulled that plan out. Actually, and I know it's something that crops up every year, the take-up of it was very, very low. We weren't having that many paying that on that strategy, and to administer that strategy, we've taken till now the option to not have it and have the set fee. But it is something we look at every year. So it's not something we wouldn't rule out in the future. It's something that every year when we look at our ticket pricing strategy, we look at, do we go down that method? But certainly from history, it shows us that actually the take-up was relatively low on that one.
Oh, Clive, another question for you.
Okay.
This one's to retail. And this one's from Stuart again on Twitter at CTFC Official. If you want to send something in to ask the guys this evening, is there a planned improvement of stock and levels in the club shop? I was lucky enough to get hold of the blue away shirt, but have heard other people say there is little or no stock left now. Surely it'd be good to maximise profit for things like kit sales.
Yes, so it's a good, that blue away kit. I guess it's a good problem to have, as Paul said earlier on when we talk about the bar, but also a bad problem on the flip side. So the blue away kit has gone down tremendously well with our supporters. So first and foremost, I'll probably hold my hands up on that. Our order that we put in, which we based on previous year's sales, we've sold out in certain sizes. So it's gone down a lot better than previous kits, which is fantastic. But obviously that does mean that some supporters have tried to get certain sizes and haven't been in stock. We have got an order coming with us anytime soon. Literally, the order went in as soon as we knew we were starting to run low, and we're working for rare to get that order in, and it should be in any time soon within the next couple of weeks. And we're also looking at placing another order on top of that as well, because we've seen that demand has continued to grow for that shirt. So it's a little bit, it's a good problem, but a bad problem at the same time. And in terms of other stock, in terms of shop, we're experiencing a similar problem to a lot of other retailers, main retailers. You see it in the national press, in terms of everyone's struggling to get hold of stock because of the pandemic. Resource and orders are taking longer, and that's so we're struggling with our suppliers. I regularly go to away games. I go to most Saturday away games. I go in club shops, everywhere we go, just to see, again, look at their ranges, see if there are ideas we can steal, look at what suppliers they use as well. We're all kind of, every club is a little bit in the same boat, in terms of we all use a similar type suppliers, and all those suppliers are struggling a little bit in terms of turnaround times, but we're certainly managing that. We're hopefully getting more array of stock in the next week or two, and we also will look at different ranges for Christmas sales as well.
Nice one. Thanks very much, Clive. If that answers your question, thanks very much for that. I'm going to have hopefully Tom Wade joining us in just a moment. In fact, I think he's in already. Tom, can you hear us okay?
Evening, gents. How are we?
Hi, Tom.
Yeah, hi, Tom.
Hi.
Feel free to with your question.
Yeah, not a bad start, I've got to say. It could be better, but here we go. Guys, basically, any of you can answer it. I think it's pretty plain that it's just something we need answering. Basically, prior to the fans coming back, we all say we missed last season. It was a great season. The club promised a lot in terms of putting more on for the fans. I'm just wondering why there hasn't really been that much improvement on the matchday experience. And one in particular that was asked was on a questionnaire, something to do with a fan zone. I was just wondering why that's not been put into traction by now, bearing in mind we haven't had that many home games, So we've had, 2 Saturday home games? No, 3. With the exception, nobody really counts a Tuesday night. You're not going to do it on a Tuesday night. But there's been many of opportunities for it to happen. Obviously, all summer, I knew it was touch and go with whether exactly what's going to happen post-COVID. But I was just wondering why anything hasn't been done yet with that. And is there any plans to have anything done?
I can touch on that a little bit regarding the bar, as we touched on earlier on. We were working with our breweries to get a marquee, which I think has probably been a little bit of our delay. So you're right, over the summer was a funny period, really, for the football club, because we knew we'd get supporters back at some point, but we weren't quite sure when, and how many. So that summer was a little bit of an annoying period, I'd say. And then quickly changed that we'd get a full capacity back from day one. Part of our strategy was to get a fan zone in, but we struggled with the brewery to get a marquee. So we were a little bit nervous in terms of a fan zone out in the open, because I guess you as well as I know, the day we say, right, we're going to have a fan zone and it's going to be out in the open is the day that we get probably thunderstorms and torrential rain. So we were working with the brewers to get a marquee, and they've struggled a little bit in terms of getting hands on it. They were going to supply us one for a number of games throughout the year, and that's where we've the delay has been up until now. Saturday we had, I wouldn't call it a fan zone, that little bit of a hybrid where we could have an extended area in terms of the bar, but certainly our support offering, our fan zone offering is something we'd like to do. It's just getting all those wheels in motion. As Paul mentioned earlier on, we're looking at it to try and make an improvement each game. It has been a lot of hard work by everyone to get the matches hosted again. We've gone, gone cashless on the turnstiles. We've had to deal with, tickets, making sure the collections and points are up and running, managing queues. Each game, I think we're getting better, as a club. And we're not the only ones as well. Paul speaks to a lot of clubs, and a lot of clubs are in a similar situation to us. But to come back to the fan zone, definitely it's something we want to work on. I was hoping, actually, going back 2 weeks ago, I was hoping we'd have something in place for Oxford. And then the brewery was, they thought they'd be able to get marquee in, and they managed. I turned around and said, no, they're struggling again. So it is a little bit, we keep pushing each game.
Yeah. In terms of marquee, though, is there nobody, that can put some research into finding maybe someone local that'd be willing to, not so say sponsor it, but be involved with it as well in that part. You know, if there is other things that could be looked at, do you think?
There might be another avenue we have to look at. So working with a brewery, it was, you know, they were willing to, let's say sponsor it. They were willing to give it to us for no cost, because obviously they know their beer sales would go up. So it was a win-win situation for both parties. So that was really our main avenue at the start, to use that option. Now that we're a couple of games into it and we're struggling with the brewery, to get that, we might have to look at other options. But to hire a marquee, even for one game, there's quite a big cost there. I was quite surprised how much they are to hire. So we are certainly working on it. It's not a point now at this stage.
Okay, fair enough. That's fine.
Can
just another thing as well.
Can I just come back to you on the fan zone? I mean, you talked about match day experience, Tom, and yeah, obviously, because we're in that higher league, we're having a few more fans come in, and I think there's a whole lot of component things that affect the match day experience. You know, whether it's queuing for your collection of your tickets, being able to get into the bar, having a fan zone, getting access through Parklands, whatever it is. As Clive said, there's a lot of things that have been going on, and yes, the brewery and the obtaining of a marquee is proving to be difficult, or it's been slightly problematic. But equally, as a board, we're all volunteers here. We work with a fairly small staff, and this isn't an excuse, but it's really been a question of trying to deal with the problems in order. And certainly, I think we've improved the ticketing, it would be fair to say, in terms of collection, so that the queues are less. We've been looking at the food outlets and trying to get some improvement on that and dealing with that. So bit by bit, I think that we're dealing with things. But also, I think in terms of a match day experience, the main experience that we all come here for is to watch 90 minutes of good football, and to generate a good atmosphere in the ground as well. I appreciate that before is important as well as during, but I'd like to think that as we progress into the season and we're all made aware by you guys of the things that you want, that we can address those and that we can get a good balance of good football and expand our facilities as much as we can, so that people feel that they're getting a better all-round package here at Bodden Road. Yeah, no,
I've got to be honest, David, I do agree with you to a certain extent, but I do have to say I do disagree with you, because I think football's it's a business these days, isn't it? And I think the club are missing out massively from not being able to do more to give the supporters that, that pre-game atmosphere, even during the game at half times and stuff like that. It used to be crossbar challenges, things put on for the fans. That seems to have all disappeared. Rodney the Robin seems to have just gone completely. And I've even myself, I've put forward things to many people, that just little things that make the biggest difference for fans. And if we're going to get more fans into the ground like we are, it's all about doing the best for everybody. So it's a win-win for the fans. Everybody goes away happy. You guys are happy because you're getting a good turnover from it. It's all great. I just think some of the little things that are there need to be looked at, and it's okay saying considered, but I think it has to be shown a bit more to being done. There's more things need to be done. It's okay sitting here doing this, saying, yeah, we'll sort it, and then come a few months time or whenever another one of these comes up, I'm sat here asking the same question and nothing's really changed. With the biggest respect, I know you are, you all do your best. We all, we know that. I'm sure there's people out there that would be willing to help, maybe, with the trust and stuff like that. So there is more people, there is hands there available. It's just maybe, in my view, then it's about the club reaching out saying we need a hand with this. Is there anything you can do? Could you help? You'd be willing to do it? I think there is things, because if we can come together, there's no reason why, even from away fans' points of view, they can't come to Wadden Road, to Johnny Rocks, whatever you want to call it now, and go, wow, what an atmosphere, what a day that was, and enjoy coming here, as well as the home fans do. I mean, there's home fans that I talk to who've even mentioned, just not the state of the ground, but there's things at the ground that look tatty, old. There's a wasteland there's a wasteland that's just sat there. Or I saw there's a skip full of office equipment, just a bit of tidying up. The board that welcomes you all looks run down now. Just the tiny little things. Spruce. I'm not saying give the old girl a facelift, but just put a bit of makeup on it, maybe. Do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. That's a fair comment. I mean, pointing question you just said about the board at the front, we are looking to get that renewed, and we've been looking at the way we do that. Not that's not a huge job, but it's just a question of sponsors and names on it and how it's done, and just getting someone just to fund it really to save, so that we can put as much money on the pitch as we can. So yeah, I think those are all.
But surely, I don't want to interrupt you, but surely that's allowed for, isn't it? Improvements for the face of the pit, of the ground is that's surely that's allowed for. We're not just working on a playing budget here and nothing else.
No, that's true. But I mean, for example, I'm sure Clive can answer this better than me, but this year, for example, we do have funds set aside for things. But then, for example, we've got a new building for ticket collections, which we've had to get, and that's been proved quite expensive. So, all of the costs are fairly tightly budgeted. And when we get some extraordinary items that, if you like, take priority, then some of the things that you're talking about, if you like, the makeup of the place, they're the things that sometimes don't get done because the contingency budget has been used for other things which are considered more important. I mean, the other thing that we had this year was that obviously we hadn't been issuing tickets last season, and we cranked up the printers for the ticket machine to do the season tickets, and they all died on us. So the cost of those was not inconsiderable. I mean, you might think, well, I thought a couple of printers wasn't going to cost too much, but they're bespoke ticket machines, and I think they were about £900 each.
There's always
something. Two of those. That's another couple of grand gone. So
the CCTV packed up last week.
That
was completely out. Nobody expected that. So that was another reasonably sized bill that we had to find.
I guess, Tom, a couple of points to come back to it. You make some valid points on a few bits and pieces. I walk around the ground most games. As you well know, I took the trophy around with me the other week as well. I quite often walk around with my phone and take photographs as I walk around as well at different bits and pieces, because actually you can walk past something. If you get used to walking past something, you don't always notice it. So if there are bits and pieces, point them out, because we get in that blind alley and we're constantly walking past something. We don't notice sometimes what's there in front of us. The sign being a prime example, until someone says, "Oh, that sign's a bit dated," and you look up and you think, "Oh yeah, they're right." Wadney, you make a very good point. I'm not entirely sure where Wadney is or what's happened to Wadney, so I'll pick that one up, and go and find out what's happened. We've probably got to get a new shirt on Wadney because he's probably got the old kit. But let's try and get him out, and that shouldn't be, something to cost us. And some half-time entertainment. I'd have to check with Paul about what we're allowed to do, because we do have red zones in place. So I'm not 100% sure what we can and can't do. So we might have to look at the rules on there. But again, it's something that we can do. It doesn't cost us money, a bit of manpower. So there's some easy wins there that I agree with. And then once we have that marquee and that fan zone in place, I look forward to you buying me a pint, eh?
I'll be honest. I will buy you as many pints as you want if I can see stuff being done. It's simple.
Hey, Tom, do you fancy volunteering to fill that Rodney seat?
Depends what size it is, David. To be honest with you.
Sorry, I jest. I wasn't pop that yet.
Nice one.
No, look, I'm as much as anybody else. You got to ask anything at all. But it's the want to do things, isn't it? Really, I think a lot of it is very basic things. It's just frustrating, Clive, because and to all of you, it's just frustrating when we walk round and this is our club. We want people to turn up here every week and go, "This is where Cheltenham Town play," and I just feel sometimes it just doesn't feel like that, and it doesn't look like that. I mean, you're walking up one road, you get to the gates, it's like I've had away supporters this season go, "Oh, there it is." I think there's things we could be doing, and just this is our home. This is us. I mean, we got the old former players bit, haven't we, on the side of the Auto Village, nice and shiny. That's beautiful. But for me, that seems like a patch on something quite bigger, when there's a lot more that needs to be done, really and truly. Like a bit of paint here and there won't go amiss, and just little things tidying up. And maybe it's just me, maybe it's just a couple of other people. But I think you're right in terms of there is a few easy wins, but it's now time to. I'm a big fan of less talk, more action. I'd like to see it be done, and I'll buy you all a pint if I can see things being done.
Let's try and catch up 10 minutes before the next home game if you want, Tom, and we can have a walk round.
Yeah,
Just-
sure.
Just
Anytime.
get 10 minutes before the next home game, and yeah, you and I can have a walk around for 10 minutes and just point a few things out, and we'll see what we can do.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. That's
Time.
really good feedback and interaction. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Guys.
Cheers, Tom.
All the
Thank
best.
you.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
one. Right, we've got a few other questions to get through. I've got Michael Duff's also going to be joining us very shortly live here on our Zoom call this evening. Questions coming in on Twitter, questions we've had sent in already. Here's one from David Castor. I don't know if this is one for you, Paul. I would like to know if the attendance figures that are given near the end of the games are really genuine, as in my opinion, they do not reflect the numbers that are actually there. Do we falsify them? Because so do other clubs. Only 5,004 against Oxford looks a lot more.
Absolutely not. No, the figures are the attendance figures that we give out are the season tickets and paid admissions. So that's every season ticket holder, everybody that's bought a ticket for the match, and any other people that are in the ground as spectators. So that includes media, people in hospitality areas, that sort of thing. So actually, quite often the attendance figure we give out is slightly more than the people that are actually in the ground, because you always get a few season, particularly in the winter or particularly for mid-weekends, you always get a few season ticket holders that don't turn up. But no, those are the exact figures. I mean, I know this has cropped up before. I know people always say this. The reason the ground looks full is because we've still got terraces, and terraces look quite busy even when they're not. I mean, the Sports Ground Safety Authority will tell you that a standing terrace is full if you can only see the heads and shoulders of the people in there. So if you can see the whole of someone's body, or if there's space around somebody, or there's people that are spaced out in parts of the terrace, then it means it's nowhere near full. I mean, it's a challenge for the future. I mean, now that there are fewer and fewer terraces in football, I think the newer generation of people probably don't know what it's like to be really packed like sardines into a terrace, like it used to be in the old days.
Yeah.
So it's something that's really going out of the gate. But certainly, when the ground is full, when we played, remember we had the big cup ties in Newcastle and Everton and things like that, you could literally only see the heads and shoulders of the people in the standing.
Nice one. Cool. Thanks very much for that one. Thanks for your question, David. Now I will let in manager Michael Duff, who's waiting patiently on the line. And we've got a fan or two also waiting on the line. And we've also got other questions to get through, so plenty to get through. But we'll just welcome Michael Duff onto our broadcast this evening. Good evening, Michael. Can you hear us all okay?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a silhouette. Just in the spare bedroom, so I've been kicked out of the house.
That's okay. As long as we've got you online, that's the good thing. I'll start with a question, of course, regarding an issue that popped up after last night's game at Preston, Michael. It's from Ryan Bird. He says, with Callum Wright now out for most of the season, will you be looking to the free agent list or a January loan to replace him?
Well, we need to get confirmation of what the actual results of his scan is. He's had an initial scan, but he's going back to Leicester. They're going to reassess him because he's their player. Obviously, Leicester being the club they are, they'll spare no expense. So until we get a full diagnosis of what 100% the injury is, 6 months is worst case scenario. Hopefully, won't be that. So, but we have to go on the worst case scenario. So at the minute, the squad's big enough. Depending on the result, we might have to go and look for another loan. We're always looking at the free market anyway. That's not something that's because of an injury. We're always sourcing that market to see if there's anything out there, and currently there isn't a lot out there. Nice one.
Thank you very much. That's on Callum Wright, of course. Very disappointing that he's picked up that injury. I will try and get Gavin Garthwaite, who I think is waiting to join the call. I think he's got a football-related question. But in the meantime, Michael, just a message from Breton Day. It's more a statement more than anything. He said he described you as a generational manager at this club, and he'd like to thank you for all the happy memories over the last 2 years and all the very best in succeeding in League One. A nice message there for Breton, for you there. Hopefully Gavin's going to be able to join us shortly on the call. But we'll just discuss, Michael, last night's game. That's okay. In the meantime, Preston away, of course. As an occasion, we've had a bit longer now to think about that as a game. Similar emotions to how you felt last night in terms of your team's performance against a team from a high level. when, of course, you didn't necessarily have all your sort of players available for that game as well?
Well, no, we didn't have a full complement of players through injury, illness. Some of it was our choice. Some of the players were cut aside. So, honestly, probably could have done without the game with the amount of travelling that we're going to do this week. But there's an opportunity that we've got these young players that we believe in, and at some point you've got to expose them to see whether they're ready or not. Because if you don't give them an opportunity and you release them at the end of the season, not knowing. So I thought all the young players, look at the age of the back three, I think it was 19, 19 and 20, 21. So really good experience. You know, Sean Maguire's an Irish international. Reece, the Danish boy, is a really, really good player. Connor Wickham, I know he only played 5 minutes, but he's probably played 150 Premier League games. So just at that part of the pitch, really good experience for him going away. And that was the disappointment at half-time. Disappointment at half-time was a lot of the players would have still not known if they were good enough or not, because they didn't impact themselves on the game. So that was the pleasing part of the second half, that they now know what it takes to compete at that level. I thought the scoreline was probably not a fair reflection. I don't think we deserved to win the game by any means, but it wasn't a result. The result didn't dictate what we were trying to get out of the game. I think the supporters enjoyed going up there. New ground for a lot of people, a nice stadium, and that's probably the benchmark that we've set, that people are going up there and disappointed that we've not gone up there and won. But I think to finish the game with 7 21-year-olds and under, I think we started the game with 6 and finished the game with 7. And then, Owen Evans, Charlie Raglan, they're only mid-20s as well. I think, in fact, the oldest player on the pitch, I think, at the end was 28 in Carl Vassell. So one thing we've done this summer to last summer is we've reduced the average age of the squad to try and get a bit more resale into the squad. And I think last night's performance was a good performance overall. I was pleased with the day overall.
Yeah, a couple of questions that have come in on Twitter. We'll start with one from Chris. He says, first of all, thank you for your work so far. Is management what you thought it would be, and could you sign a 5-year contract as soon as possible?
You're asking the wrong person. No, I don't think any part of it is what you expect. I think any manager will tell you that. I've walked into the building, and with respect to the club, I'd just come from a Premier League club with elite facilities and everything elite. And that's all I'd been used to. So you walk into the first couple of weeks, there was a few things that happened, and you're thinking, wow, just things that you wouldn't expect. And then there's situations that they can't teach you on coaching courses, but it's all experience. I don't class myself as an experienced manager now. I'm still only 150 games in. So I'm learning every day. Something pops up that's new I'm lucky that I've got a network of people I can speak to and lean on when situations that I'm not quite sure about do come up. But no, I've enjoyed it. It probably won't get much better than what it is at the minute in terms of a life-work balance. We've had a good 2 years. Family are happy. Live in the area. It takes me 10 minutes to get to work. It takes me 5 minutes to get to the ground on a match day. So there's loads of positives, and I'm sure it'll all change at some point. But no, I'm very lucky to be where I am at the minute, and I'm appreciative of the club giving me an opportunity. You look at the amount of young managers or young coaches that are out there, you never get a chance. And I always look back at the first 10 games. My career could have been ended before it even started, because if I'd have had the sack in the first 10 games, that's me done as a manager now. I'm just an academy coach at best. So that the club holds a special place in my heart anyway. But even more so because of that, because they've given me 2 opportunities for 2 careers, one as a footballer and one as a manager now.
Brilliant. Thanks, Michael. If you can just hold the line for a minute, that'd be brilliant, because we've got other questions related to the board as well. So we'll ask them a couple of questions. And I'm pleased to say we've got lots more questions coming in for yourself as well on Twitter as well. First one, let's go to a question that's come in then from Ron Reed, for anyone on the board who wants to answer this one. Given home games are now attracting crowds in the 4,000 to 5,000 range, is it time for the board to consider again the provision of a matchday park and ride scheme? On match days, I see a number of supporters walking from the stadium to the racecourse car park, and with the increasingly large number of away supporters attending games, I believe a park and ride facility would be welcome. And he mentions a few other clubs that he feels do park and ride and pay a nominal fee and he thinks it will also help with local residents. Anybody want to take on board a potential return of a park and ride scheme?
That's something we can certainly look at. I mean, we used to run it. The reason we stopped was because it wasn't being used enough. There was a lot of enthusiasm for it originally, but then that dwindled, although I must admit that probably coincided with a time when the team wasn't doing quite so well. So if the demand's there, I mean, there is a cost associated with it, obviously. So I mean, I don't know whether we used to do it free. I don't know whether we go to do it free anymore, but it's certainly something that, if it helps to get people to the games and get them in the ground, then it's got to be worth looking at. Yeah.
Brilliant, cool. A question as well, which this person who's asked it, Michael Jones, also says relates to the manager, but I think it's probably actually one more that, from a board perspective, probably needs answering, and that's about the atmosphere at home games favouring the away team. Michael says the acoustics in the away stand are far superior when fans sing in the away end, especially when they sell out the games, and it drowns out the volume of our amazing support, which does not favour our team at all. You have in the past moved some of our singing crowd to various parts of the stadium to combat this, but only a full switch around, I feel, will work. Possible standing barriers installed in the away end for our supporters who still prefer standing at games as well could be the solution. Could you please tell us your thoughts on the subject? And of course, I think today some bits and pieces came out, didn't it, on actually the installation of standing for fans in seated areas in English football once again. Yeah,
clubs can apply for standing in seated areas. Pre-accreditation, I think, for the first clubs to do it. We've still got terraces, as I said earlier, so it doesn't really make sense for us to have standing in seated areas when you can still stand on terraces. Admittedly, the away end is seated. That's mainly down to the configuration of the ground, because it's much easier to segregate the away fans if we're at the Wadden Road end than if they have to come all the way across the car park and through all the home supporters to get to the Presby Road end. I mean, the solution, as we touched on earlier, is to improve that end of the ground, and that's what we like to do. Rather than, personally, I don't see swapping the ends as practical from a safety and security point of view. But we're very much aware of the acoustics issue. It's one that's been ongoing for quite some time.
Yeah. Okay. A few more questions for Michael then. This is one that we had in from Gavin Garthwaite. I think he was trying to join in, but I'll read out his question anyway. So, Michael, with the foundations and success that have been laid in your tenure, the relationships built with clubs loaning us their young, talented players, and the reputation we've built from giving a great platform for their development, etc., what does the potential hold for Cheltenham Town in, say, the next 5 years if we continue in the same vein?
I don't know. I think it's great because the positivity talking from the supporters is great, but there probably does come a bubble at some point that you can't constantly overachieve. We are overachieving, and we have done for the last 2 years. Now that can't always happen. You can't always be. But whilst we are doing that, we are building a relationship with bigger clubs. They are now looking to give us their better players. And people were ringing us up in the summer rather than us beg, borrow, and stealing. The flip side to that is that we're now, in League One particularly, you do have to pay a lot of money for loans. They're not first-time loans anymore. They're not young kids. They are first-time loans. They've got high expectations of them. So generally, you do have to pay a premium. But we've managed to, through Mickey, really source some good deals for some of the loan players that are favourable to us, which helps us overachieve. So in terms of a long-term plan in 5 years, I think I've been in football long enough to don't plan too much down the future, especially my side of it. The board's different. They have to structure it and plan. But my theory's always been it's always been if you look too far down the road, it's the same with my career. I got sent back from Cirencester Town for not being good enough, but in the back of my mind, I knew where I wanted to go. I don't need to tell anybody. Just do it and just keep working every day. And I think that's the same, because if you look too far down the road, you'll trip up. You start talking about, well, in 5 years we'll be here, and in 3 we'll end up getting relegated this year. We need to fight tooth and nail to stay in this league. We've had a good start, which is great, but it's still all shiny new. You look at the 4 teams that have been promoted, have all done well. And when it starts becoming attritional, when you start picking up injuries, because we have got a smaller squad, let's see where we're at then. So just as if we lose the next 4 games, I don't think we're nailed on to get relegated, but I don't think we're going to be pushing for the playoffs this year either. So it's getting a balance of where we're at currently, but not trying to dampen down too much enthusiasm, because the supporters are buoyant at the minute, and we need to try and give them performances to keep them that way.
Just have a question also on Twitter from Sai. He says, will Boyle be offered a new contract?
I think we've got 11, I think it is. I think we've got 11 players out of contract. So again, those sorts of discussions are going on all the time. Will Boyle be offered a contract without giving too much away? I'd imagine he would probably get offered a contract because he's quite a good player. So I'm sure we'll approach that when we seem fit and necessary. So yeah, it's every player's you deal with independently. So I've not really had a conversation with Boyle, but would I offer him a contract now? Yeah, probably, because I think he's done well enough to earn one. Whether he signs one, that's totally up to him. But these are ongoing discussions that are constantly happening. It's, we do a lot more than just do training and play on a Saturday or a Tuesday. There's the management side of it. You probably do more work in the office than what you do on the training ground. And they're all parts of the moving parts that, like I said earlier, about the free agents and those sort of conversations and the planning. And we're trying to sort what we are looking for in January, and we're already looking for what we're going to be looking for next summer as well. So it's constantly evolving and constant planning.
Yeah, remember everyone, get your questions in on @CTFC Official on Twitter. Now we've got Michael with us, of course, here on the broadcaster. Another question we have had in on Twitter, Michael, is coming from Stuart. He says, really encouraged to see Grant Horton playing again last night. It's great to see our players like him and George Lloyd coming through the ranks. As a fan, I'd like to see a balance between youth and experience. How confident are you in those coming through for the future?
Well, they have to be good enough ultimately. I know supporters want to see young local players, but they also want to see a winning team. So we could fill the team with 11 youth team players that live in the area and get relegated. I'm not sure the supporters would accept that. So with the development of players develop at different rates. So you get some lads who are the world's best players at 14 and they never make it. So quite interesting. I was on a webinar last year with Arsene Wenger, and he said from the age of 16 to 21, you never know. So he said at the age of 16, they bought the world's best teenagers when he was at Arsenal. And some of them went on to be people like Cesc Fabregas and went on to be the best players in the world. And some of them at 19, they weren't in the game. But at 16, they were the best players, because you never know where they are on their development curve. So the problem that we have is that we don't run a 23s or a 21s. So people like Lloydie's a second or third year pro, I think now. Grant's a second year pro. And they're not ready for our first team, but they're showing that they're on the development curve and that the curve's still going up. So as long as the curve's still going up, we never know where that potential will end. So we like them. I think Grant's done well in the games that he's been tested this year. He done well last year when he got thrown into it. Lloydie did well in terms of games, but needs to go out and get a few more goals. But as long as young players keep showing signs of development, we'll keep giving them contracts. So they don't have to necessarily be in the first team by the age of 17, 18, because they all develop at different rates. And I was a prime example of that.
Nice one. Well, we've got lots more questions to get through, including for yourself, Michael, but a couple more for the board just for the moment. A couple of maybe perhaps sort of statements as well. Ryan says, linked with the season ticket payment plan question, if you're in the Colin Farmer stand and paid £370 early bird price, you can actually put £31 to one side every month and be able to pay in one lump sum. You can almost create your own payment plan. So there's a bit of advice there from Ryan for anyone wanting to get a season ticket for the Colin Farmer for next season, perhaps. A Wizard says, for the pay in instalments question, if you had a better website for products and tickets, you could use Klarna payments or similar, which would split the bill in three. I don't know if that's something that we've heard of before. Yeah, nice one. A question from Dave Hancock. He says, why is the scoreboard display so limited? Would be nice to see the team sheets, substitutions, bookings, goal replays would also be good. Am I the best one to answer?
Yeah, I think that's one for you, Josie.
Obviously, the scoreboard is absolutely brilliant. It's such a brilliant asset for us as a football club. Luke Saunders does an absolutely brilliant job on a match day manager that, because as you can imagine, if something goes wrong on that screen, everyone looks over and thinks, wait a minute, there's something wrong on that screen. So Luke does a brilliant job every match day doing that. We have upped the content pre-match the last few games, and we will be doing that even more. We've got even more video content coming in terms of, I'm sure you remember last year we had student interns doing a lot of work with us there coming on board literally this week. So we'll have even more video content ahead of games. Of course, we've had a year where, of course, no fans in the stadium, so the scoreboard was almost irrelevant in terms of apart from telling the time. So we're sort of having to get back on that sort of run we were on before, where of course it's just full of content on a match day, and it is a huge asset for us. We get a lot of money through sponsorship through it, whether that's been like corner takers, yellow cards, all sorts of stuff. And I know Clive will definitely tell you there's always still opportunities to sponsor. So if people are interested in that, they can definitely do that, for different things in terms of in the game and all sorts. But 100%, we already try and utilise it as much as possible, but we're 100% trying to do that even more moving forward as well. So we'll do that as much as possible to make sure it's just another part of the matchday experience. Not, many clubs are lucky to have a big screen. The one that Preston had last night, for example, I don't think anywhere near as good as the one that we have, for example. So we're certainly lucky to have it, and the fans paid for it themselves, of course, for the crowdfunder. So definitely be making the most of that moving forward as well. Let's go back to a question for Michael then. Michael, this one's from Tom. He says, what are your thoughts on how the team has started, given the amount of games we have played away from home, and given how we started it? Are you happy, pleased, or very pleased compared to your initial expectations that you set out in mind at the start of the season?
Well, I didn't set out with too much expectation. Like I said, just try and win the game in front of you. So, we've got 2 tough games coming up, but it's not going to dictate where we finish in the next 2 games. So I think everybody would have taken where we're at the start of the season. I think 12 points from 8 games. And you look at the teams that we've played against already. I think after the next run of games, with the Rotherham game after the 2 away games, I think we'll have played probably 5 of the top 6. And then you throw in your Cheltenhams and your Ipswich into that as well. So we're pleased. I won't come away from the fact that we just want to be competitive. We don't want to. It's a big jump for a club of our size to go into League One. I'm not comparing to the jump to the Premier League, but you look how Norwich are a small club in the Premier League, and you see how they've struggled because the jump's huge. Now, the golfing class isn't as big, obviously, but there is a jump. And the fact that we've managed to be competitive in every game, I think we've only been poor in one game, and that was only for probably about 50 minutes of that one game at Fleetwood. I thought we were good for half an hour of it. So that isn't going to happen till the end of the season. We won the league last year and we had 5 or 6 games where we were turgid. That will happen this year. But at the minute, it's all going well. So ride the positivity, ride the confidence, and then because you're going to have to suffer, you're going to have to dig in and sit in at some times. But yeah, pleased with the start and the fact that we've been competitive and given even the better teams in the league a good go.
How have you found the sort of physical output with the players? Because their fitness levels are very high. I know you've been impressed with that, and I just think back to the Oxford game here a few days ago. It was such a frantic game; it was breathless to watch, let alone to play in. Because as soon as the ball turns over, you're having to work hard to get back in your shape. And as soon as you have the ball, there's an expectation that you have to be really creative. And the pace of the game was incredible. That game particularly.
It's funny. That's part of the difference in the leagues in terms of actual physical output. Is very similar to League Two in terms of the actual miles covered by the players, but it's different type, it's different intensity. So it's less attritional. So, the MK Dons game, people would say, well, they ran the legs off us because they did, but the actual mileage that the players did wasn't that great because we were just camped in all the time and moving from side to side. So it was a mental fatigue. So the different types of fitness within that. But yeah, the ball's in play a lot more often. There's a lot less restarts. When you do give the ball away, which we showed in the first 2 or 3 games, when we went 1-0 up, we thought, well, we'll just survive now. You can't. You've got to keep taking the ball and keep it, because last year we could just toss it away and see the game out. This year, you're going up a level, it doesn't happen. They'll knock the door down eventually. So that's all part of our learning that we've in eight league games that I think we showed good signs of learning.
Nice one. A few more questions for the board. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on the clock. Don't want to keep everyone too late this evening, especially after a very late night last night. A question from Chris House. He says, we are in desperate need for a new main stand that holds all the player and supporter facilities required, including upgraded dressing rooms. What is the position with the council on the strategy with this?
Well, Chris, yeah, this is a big question in terms of a resolution. During the course of the pandemic, we were engaged with the council, and we were engaged with some consultants in terms of trying to prepare some reports in terms of what we could do in terms of moving forward, financial planning and budgeting and so on and so forth. Those discussions and plans haven't yet been finalised. We've had discussions with the council, and as Paul said a little bit earlier on, there have been some changes in the council personnel, so they're in a little bit of a sort of a lacuna situation at the moment. So we haven't, in the recent time, been able to advance those discussions. Obviously, part and parcel of the development of the main stand is Cambridge Place. There's the Parkland site at the back, which is also council property. Obviously, we're tenants of the council on a very long lease here. So there's the planning and structuring of it, and then there's also the funding. And a number of board members are looking at ways that we can start to do that. We've got to generate more commercial income, and obviously building the new stand here would be one way of doing that. But in order to get there, we've got to raise the necessary money to rebuild it. It would be a considerable cost, and unfortunately, we haven't got that money stacked in the bank as we sit here. So yeah, we've got to find some investors. We've got to find some funding. We've got to get the plans together. It's a complicated process, but it's certainly something which is part and parcel of our agenda and what we would like to do. Yes, we would love to see a new stand here where we're sitting with great catering facilities, other facilities as well, perhaps some community facilities, bigger bars. Yeah, like we see at some of the other grounds, particularly grounds in League One. So it is something that we would like to do, we aspire to do, but it's something which will still take a little bit of time, I'm afraid.
Nice one. Thanks, David. A question in from Dan. With the success and exposure of Superdry in the town and worldwide, would a Cheltenham Town Superdry kit collaboration be something to consider? Luke manufacturing the Aston Villa kit as well, another option. Of course, Luke are one of our partners. Not saying array or a bad, it's just it feels like we're entering a new chapter.
Yeah, well, I'd love to get Superdry involved. I'm not sure that Superdry owner is a big football fan. He's a nice chap, and yeah, I'd love to get him involved. So if he's listening, which I doubt if he is, but if he is listening, then yeah, great. He's the door's open. He's welcome to come to a game with us, and love to see some involvement in whichever capacity that is, whether or not it's things around the ground or helping us more widely than that. Yeah, a Superdry association would be very nice.
Good stuff. A question here from Howes on Twitter. How can I get more involved at the club to help us push on as a club? That simple, really.
Message, yeah, send an email would be the first start. Let's have a conversation about what help that is. So it's info@ctfc.com. Would be the first start, and that's like we can have a conversation. Depends on what your skills are. How do you help the club, and either us or the trust. I'm sure one of us could use his help.
Nice one. Cool. Thanks very much, Clive. Well, I think we're coming up to an hour mark now, so we're probably a good idea with the questions quieting down as well to call it a day. I'll ask one final question to Michael if we can. Michael, we played Preston North End in the Championship last night in the Carabao Cup third round. We're playing Wigan Athletic, FA Cup winners a few years ago, Premier League club a few years ago. On Saturday, we're playing Sunderland, ex-Premier League club, on Tuesday. You look at the fixture list, and it's a pretty special time, isn't it, for this football club right now, when you just see that that's our normal fixtures coming up.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the miles that we're clocking up. I think we do. I'll be putting 40p a mile in this week, and I'll be quids in anyway. So it's great. But you look at the two games after that, Rotherham and Portsmouth. So every fixture you look at, there's big teams everywhere in this league. Even I'm chatting to their staff last night, and they're looking, because I know a couple of their staff because they were at Burnley with me, and they're like, League One's unbelievable this year. And we're a small club in League Two. So the fact that we're punching above our weight, we're being competitive, and we're taking these big teams on is great. You know, going to Charlton last week, I know they've had a difficult start. There's still 15,000 there. Players still have to turn up. Still got some good players. Brilliant away day. People will remember that for a long time. So don't rest on your laurels. Keep kicking on. Say it all the time. The last one doesn't owe you the next one. So, you know, we lost last night. Doesn't mean we'll lose the next one. But it's been a good ride. It's been a good ride for probably 2.5 years now. Coming up to 3 years at Christmas. Since then, we've been pretty successful. But don't get complacent with it. Don't take it for granted, because I know the supporters won't like it, but we are a small club in League Two. We don't want to go back to League Two. You know, I'm sure everyone, players, the board, the supporters, all enjoy going to these big grounds. So we'll be trying everything we can to make sure we stay. Size of the club doesn't always mean everything. You know, finances, wages, size, you know, season ticket sales don't necessarily always dictate where you can finish. That's why there's a pyramid.
Nice one. Brilliant. Michael, thanks very much for your time this evening. Really appreciate it. Thank you everyone who's joined us on this live Q&A. Great to get your thoughts. Thanks so much for your support this season as well. Some great numbers obviously at the Oxford game last time out here. And if we can continue in that vein, then it'll put the club in a much stronger place moving forward, both on and off the field as well. So Michael, thanks very much for your time. Thank you for joining us on this live call. Clive, thank you very much as well. David, thank you. And of course, Paul Godfrey as well. That's it this evening on our live Q&A. This will be available to watch on our YouTube channel anytime and on the club website if you've missed any parts of it and you've joined it late. Please feel free to check in and drop in on any bits you want to watch. Our next action, Saturday at Wigan Athletic. Tickets and away travel are still on sale, and of course up to Sunderland next Tuesday as well for the fans who want to do that as well. So definitely looking forward to those games, and of course our next home game here against Rotherham United coming up too. So make sure you get tickets for that one. Thanks for your continued support. Thanks very much, guys, and a very good evening to you all.